Good morning. Hey, welcome home to Cassidy. My name is Stephen Mitchell, and it is a great joy to be with you. In case you missed it, we had just replaced the faces on most of those with Suzanne and Jana. There you go. And if you could bring the volume on me down just a little bit, that'd be great. It's the one on the far left. There you go. Perfect. I'm just echoing a little bit much. It is awesome to be here. The hope that we have is that we can grow in relationship to God so that we can be more like Jesus, so that we can go into the world and make a difference in the name of Jesus. So if you are new here, we just wanted to say you are welcome here. We're excited to have you with us. We are excited that you have chosen to spend a portion of your day in celebration of who God is and what God has done in our lives, that we can be more like Jesus, that we can go into the world representing Jesus and loving people where they are so that they can come into relationship. And our hope is not our hope. The reality is we're not perfect. But we know the one who is, and that's Jesus. And we want to strive to be more like him. And so we want to invite you on a journey with us. Together, we can grow toward Jesus, grow in relationship with one another, so that we can go into the world and make a difference in the name of Jesus. One of the fun things that we've been doing this summer so far, which is still spring, but that's okay, we're close, is that we have been doing a series called In Case You Missed It, looking at Bible stories that you may not have noticed or you read through, and maybe there was some stuff in there and you were like, I really don't know what the point of that story is. There are stories that hide in the background that people miss completely, and stories sometimes that seem small, but they reveal truth to us. They share the heart of God and allow us to see how we can live a little bit differently. And this is why this year we are trying to stay connected to God, because we want to look at all of the things that God is doing and God has provided for us so that we can understand God better, so that we can understand our relationship better, so that we can live better into the hope and promise that God offers to us. And so as a church, we have been memorizing, I'm gonna even claim this. We have memorized by now John 15:5, and so I'm gonna invite you to say this with me just so that we can keep it on the top or the forefront of our mind. Jesus said, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. The hope is that we remember that we can stay connected to God so that we can live productive. We want to stay connected to the source of life so that we can take that out and share that with everyone we encounter. And that's the main idea of church this year. We're just going to be focused on that, how we can stay connected and how we can live productive. Because when we stay connected and live productive, things change around us. We can simplify our lives a bit. We can simplify our faith, and we can actually get to taking steps and making a difference. I remember, my past, I came out of doing IT. For years and years, I did IT, and I was working at a company called Pfizer. It's a little pharmaceutical company you may have heard of. And while I was working there, we were doing a software rollout. I was in charge of systems management. Actually, my title was Chief Technologist. I felt like I was very special. And really what that meant is in St. Louis, I was the one that everybody came to when the bad things happened because I was the one that was going to provide the solution for it. And so I had this guy, we hired a company, Pfizer Global hired a company to come and manage a software rollout. This was a new piece of software that was being rolled out across the company. And Pfizer is a pretty big company, and so it was going to take a minute or two to get it done. And he shows up, and he has in his hand, which he hands to me, a 155-page document that was an overview of the project. And I mean, it was fantastic. There were Gantt charts, and there were workflows, and there were team descriptions, and there was all of this information. And I felt like Forrest Gump. I was like, I'm not a very smart man, And I'm looking at all of these pages, and I said, can you simply tell me what my team needs to do? And he said, oh yes, on page 36 and page 41, there are some details for you. And I said, so all I need is page 36 and 41, correct? And he gave me this blank look. And I was like, okay then, thanks. And I took page 36 and page 41, and I handed the rest of the pages back to him. Because I just didn't need all of that information, because it was overcomplicating the scenario. It was making something that for me, for my portion, and for the teams that reported to me, it was simple. And yet, he gave me 155 pages that were overly complex and difficult. And we do this in so many things in the world around us. I mean, we tend to seek complexity, even though simplicity seems to be the way that we should go. We have relationships. You start a new relationship with someone, and they don't call, or they read your text, but they don't respond quick enough. And we climb this ladder of inference that, oh, maybe they don't like me anymore. Maybe they're angry with, maybe my last text didn't go through the way that I thought it would. Maybe it just hit differently than it was supposed to. All of those things, and we overly complicate the scenario. We make it way more complex because in our own mind, we're writing our own story. We do this in faith. We know what we need to do, and we come up with reason after reason after reason to make it more complex so that we don't have to do it. Generosity, we know we're supposed to be generous people with our time, our talents, our gifts, our service, our witness, and yet it becomes something that's difficult. And the issue often is not confusion, it's reluctance. Like we become reluctant to do it, so we make things more complex. So then by the end of it, we're like, well, that's just too complex for me to do. And so we're going to look at a story today where somebody broke down the barriers of complexity and just solved an issue in a moment instead of letting bad things play out. And the story takes place at the end of King David's reign. David has been a king in Israel, and if you remember, Israel had been without a king for years and years because God was their king. And then they were like, hey, we want to be like other nations, so we want to have our own king. And so King David is the second king in Israel's history. First, there was Saul. Saul got killed. We talked about that last week. And David takes the throne after him. Well, his son Absalom had decided that he was going to rebel against his father, and the nation of Israel, David's kingdom overcame the rebellion, and the nation of Israel now is just still recovering from that, because it's not easy to overcome civil war in the midst of what's going on. And then this guy Sheba, son of Bichri, comes on the scene. The Bible calls him a troublemaker. Actually, some versions, interpretations of the Bible call him a scoundrel. Like you're on a bad list if you're actually titled a scoundrel. And so it says this in 2 Samuel chapter 20. Now a troublemaker, or a scoundrel, however you want to put it, named Sheba, son of Bichri, a Benjamite, happened to be there. He sounded the trumpet and shouted, "We have no share in David, no part in Jesse's son, every man to his tent, Israel." And while we may not get what he's saying, we may not understand it, really what he's trying to communicate is when he says we have no share in David, David is no longer our king. Let's split the kingdom. Let's take what is ours, because David isn't the king that we want him to. Like, David isn't our king. And so we're not going to pay attention to what David said. And so David, knowing that things are not good, David sends his military commander named Joab to stop the rebellion. Joab is a general in David's army, and he's like, hey, this Bichri guy, he's causing some trouble. I need you to go. And so it says this: David said to Abishai, now Sheba, son of Bichri, will do us more harm than Absalom did. So Absalom was his son that led the first rebellion, and now we have Sheba that is doing the same thing. So he says to Abishai, this guy is going to cause more problems even than Absalom did. So take your master's men and pursue him, or he will find fortified cities and escape from us. So Joab's men and the Kerethites, and the Pelethites, and the mighty warriors went out under the command of Abishai. They marched out from Jerusalem to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. Now, when an army marches out to get you, it is not a good day for you, right? And so Sheba hears that Joab, the general in charge, is coming after him, and he nopes right the heck out of that situation. He's like, I'm going to go somewhere else. He flees. He flies from the scenario, and so he takes off to try and find some place where he can be safe from Joab and Joab's army. And it says this, Sheba passed through all the tribes of Israel to Abel Beth Maachah, and through the entire region of the Bichrites, who gathered together and followed him. So he's gaining momentum with followers, people that are going with him as he is heading out. So he's getting more and more people added to his rebellion. And all the troops with Joab came and besieged Sheba in Abel Beth Maachah. So he withdraws to this city called Abel, and in the city, it's fortified, so it has walls of protection. And so the troops of Joab show up to the city, and they built a siege ramp up to the city and stood against the outer fortifications. So this is classical warfare in the time of David. And so they come to a fortified city, and Joab says, the guy I want is in that city, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to surround the city, not let anybody in or out. We're going to build a siege ramp. This doesn't take, this isn't something that just takes a few minutes to build a siege ramp, right? It takes some time to build the siege ramp. So they've been there for a while, building the siege ramp, and the people in the city are aware of what's going on, and they're like, we're being besieged by Israel. Now, here's the interesting part, is this is a city within the kingdom of David. So David is the king here, and they're besieging this city. And so Abel Beth Maachah was an important city in the time of David. It was old, it had been around for a while, it was fortified, and it was a place that was known for wisdom and counsel. It was a place that people would go if they had questions. And the city had this reputation of being wise, and now they're under siege. And so the ramp has been built all the way up to the gates. And it says this, while they were battering the wall to bring it down, a wise woman came from the city. Listen, tell Joab to come here so I can speak to him. So they've built this siege ramp all the way up to the wall, and they're not knocking, right? They're breaking the wall down so they can come in. And so Joab hears this woman calling his name. Tell him to come here. And so he went toward her, and she asked, are you Joab? I am, he answered. And she said, listen to what your servant has to say. I'm listening, he said. She continued, long ago they used to say, get your answers at Abel. And that settled it. We are the peaceful and faithful in Israel. You are trying to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel, a city that is important, a city that is helpful to Israel. Why do you want to swallow up the Lord's inheritance? So she asks a question of Joab that brings him back to the moment of what's happening. He's chased Sheba all the way into the city, and now she asks a simple question. Why do you want to swallow up the Lord's inheritance? Why do you want to take what God has given to his people? And Joab replies, far be it from me. Far be it from me to swallow up or destroy. That is not the case. A man named Sheba, son of Bichri, from the hill country of Ephraim, has lifted up his hand against the king, against David. Hand over this one man, and I'll withdraw from the city. It makes perfect sense. Somebody finally asked, hey, why are you here? And when she asked, he tells her, we're just here for Sheba. You know, if you just hand him over, everything will be great. the woman said to Joab, his head will be thrown down to you from the wall. I'll be right back, right? She's like, I got this covered. And then the woman went to all the people with her wise advice. What was the wise advice? We can simply give them Sheba. And they cut off the head of Sheba, son of Bichri, and threw it to Joab. So what did he do? He sounded the trumpet, and his men dispersed from the city, each returning to his home. And Joab went back to the king in Jerusalem. Now, this is a great picture of something that is so cool for us. Joab's army is battering the wall. I mean, the city is about to fall. It's minutes away from being breached. And then what happens is not just one person having a difficult day. It's everybody in the city. And a woman steps forward because she is not ready for that to happen. She's like, why are they even here? Does anybody know why they're here? And she calls down, they don't even say what her name is. I don't know if you caught that. It's just a wise woman. That's enough. She's good enough with that. And so she calls down from the wall and she asks to speak to Joab because she has the courage to ask the question. And typically in the ancient world, women aren't going to go and confront military commanders, especially of a besieged city. She wants to know why Israel is battering the walls down around Israel. Like, what are y'all doing? And when she learns the real issue, she truly is like, wait right there. I'll be right back. And she goes and she tells the people, and they act. They remove Sheba. They throw his head down over the wall, and Joab sounds the trumpet, which means that the siege is over, and let's take our stuff and go home. One woman, one conversation, she acted and spared the whole city. And the question is, what made her so effective? What was it that gave her the effectiveness to stop a siege, a military siege? And one of the most striking parts of the story is how simple the solution was. Joab did not want to destroy the city. He wanted one man. He had been sent for Sheba. He was willing to destroy the city because David said, go and get him. And if you don't get him, it's going to be worse for the nation than Absalom's rebellion. And so he wants that one man. And this wise woman goes and she asks one question. And she learned everything she needed to know in that one question. Sheba is the problem. What's the solution? She offers a practical solution. The crisis is averted. This is not me saying that we need to offer this as a practical solution. Maybe if you find yourself in a besieged, fortified city, this is a solution that is available to you. But other than that, what we can take from this is the simplicity behind her motion. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is stop making things more complicated than they need to be. Stop complexifying. That's not even a word. I'm just going to throw it out there. Stop making things more complex than they should be. We do this all the time in conflict and in relationships, in our walk with God. We overthink. We overanalyze. We wait for certainty when nothing is certain. We tell ourselves, I need a better plan. I need a 155-page document, right? But often, God is simply asking us to take the next step. To take the next faithful step in our journey. Make a phone call. Ask forgiveness. Have a conversation. Pray, serve, trust, whatever it is you need to do. Christianity is profound. It is. It's deep and meaningful and rich and valuable. But following Jesus is often remarkably simple. Not simplistic, but simple. Jesus took all of the Old Testament, the law and the prophets, and distilled it down into two things. Love God. Love your neighbor as yourself, which leads you to doing the next right thing. The problem is not that we usually do not know what we're supposed to do. The problem is that we're afraid to do the simple thing that God has asked us or already asked us to do. And the wise woman, I love this, she didn't hear what Joab said and think, okay, we need a strategy here, right? I'm going to write a document. Somebody get the clay tablets, bring them on over, right? She didn't do any of that. She found the simplest, faithful response. And that simple act of courage saved an entire city. Saved a whole city because why? Because she simply acted instead of sitting back. She could have stayed up on that wall. She could have stayed in her house and just waited for what was inevitable. But instead, she, a wise woman, decided to go and have a simple conversation and led to an action. And this is the message that we can pull from this. When we talk about our two things that we want to do, stay connected and live productive. First, staying connected, this week it's simple. Get it? Simply ask God, what one thing you're good at? God, what am I good at? What do I do well? I like to barbecue. Yesterday, I started a barbecue on Saturday night or Friday night at 10 p.m. and I took my pulled pork masterpiece off of the grill on Saturday at 3 p.m. and it was perfect and amazing, and it's something that I love to do. It brings me life. That may not be your thing. But this is an opportunity where I'm like, Lord, what am I good at? Hey, you're good at making smoked meats. Yay. What a joy that is, right? Some of you are like, I could come over for some smoke. That'd be okay. Come on by. Simply ask God what one thing you're good at. And that leads to the live productive. Simply use the one thing you're good at to make a difference for one person. We're not talking about making a difference for the entire world. Just make one difference for one person with the one thing that God says you're good at, that God has given you as a gift to live faithfully, to make a difference. Make that difference for that one person. That might mean sending a text you've been putting off. That might be listening to someone without interrupting, Steve. It might be extending forgiveness or inviting someone to lunch. I mean, these aren't complex things. It might be checking on a neighbor just to see if they're doing okay. You can do so many things. Maybe your neighbor, you know that they have no ability to get out and mow their grass. Man, you got a lawnmower. Go mow the grass. Whatever it takes. Maybe that doesn't bring you joy. Maybe it does. We have a guy that goes to church here that goes and mows a neighbor's yard. Why? Because it brings him joy to be able to do that. The wise woman didn't have an army. She didn't even have a name that was given. Sure, she had a name, but it's not recorded. And she didn't have a 155-page strategic plan on how to avoid Joab. Right? She asked one question, she found the real issue, and she took one faithful step, and God used her to save an entire city. You may feel like what you have to offer is small, that you don't have enough. But think about it, one conversation, one prayer, one act of generosity, maybe one word of encouragement, one simple step of obedience. Friends, don't underestimate what God can do through a person who's willing to take the next faithful step. Because that's what God calls all of us to do. And we can simply embrace the love and grace of Jesus, and we can share that love and grace with others so that we can be transformed and that we can share the light and love that Christ has given to us. We can break it down and make it simple. Amen?